How's everybody doing today? I'm really excited. You have no idea how excited I am. One, for you guys attending, and two, to have this amazing panel of young women with me. For those that don't know, my name is Manny Gutierrez. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Think 3D. I've been in the helping profession for 20 years, new to the team. And we've been really engaged in the community and really engaged in building leadership within the youth. We have a LOT, Leaders of Tomorrow, Next Gen, that we're in the high schools. We're at Washington, we're at Jefferson, Joe Foss, and we work with VOA and Access 180 kids. And one of the things that we're really passionate about is making an impact and being able to connect with the youth and really bring awareness to the mental health importance in our community. And when I was first brought on the team, I got to meet a lot of incredible people. Last year, I was invited by Think 3D to do a speak at CultureCon. And it was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had. And then I got to meet Dawn Marie. And she's pretty cool herself. She's almost as cool as me. But at this point, I'm just happy to have her here. She introduced me to Maddie and Lily, and these girls are amazing. So, Dawn, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I'm Dawn Marie Johnson. I am the Director of Leadership and Culture for the South Dakota Afterschool Network. I've served within schools for the last 10 to 13 years, and now I'm statewide helping after-school programs, summer programs, and supporting youth in that way. As we were diving into the pillars that we wanted for our after-school network, we always talked about youth and the needs of youth and mental health and what that looks like. As we kept talking and having these conversations, there was a big piece missing. It was the youth itself. So it was really important for us to develop a youth voice. We started this program last September, and we made a calling to all after-school programs saying, hey, you guys have a magic wand. If you could solve anything in this world, anything at all, what would you solve? And it was really important for the after-school network to hear from them so we could guide our best practices and ensure that the programming that we're putting out, the resources we're putting out, the information we're sharing was guided by youth voice, because ultimately, and at the end of the day, it impacts them, and it's where our driver is. So I was blessed to have these two ladies in my first cohort, which just wrapped up, and their answers were so phenomenal. We had 10 youth within this cohort. These two really stepped up in the realm of mental health, in community, in those sort of spaces. So this last February, we went to the Capitol and we did a panel similar to this, where we got to speak in front of 70 legislators, and they got to share their voice and really speak to what they care about, what's impacting them, and really discuss ways and resources that we can pour into them to ensure that we're doing right by them. So I'm incredibly excited to have Lily and Madelyn here, and I would love for them to share their original answer on the magic wand moment, because reading that, I feel like it was just so impactful for our team to really dive in and see your hearts, see what your driver is, and see how you've personally been impacted by mental health, poverty, all the things that our youth are really struggling with right now. So I'm gonna let Lily introduce herself first, and she's gonna give you her answer to the magic wand moment.
Okay, well, I'm Lily Pressler. I'm a junior at Watertown High School, and my big issue that I wanted to change in the world is I wanted people to feel like they had a safe and secure environment within their communities, a place where they could express their true feelings, and honestly just be themselves and not feel pressured by the outside world, pressured by even people's families and their friends. I think that there's a lot going on in this world, and even with this whole talk on mental health, it's like that is a big topic, especially with youth. Youth are our future, and so I just really want to make youth feel connected together and feel like they have a purpose, they have a place to go, they have a place to belong. And so that, I think, is kind of the overarching question. And my answer to that overarching question is, I want youth to feel stable. I want them to feel like they have a place to go. So that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was really why we started this conversation, because you started to find that in your after-school program, and you wanted to highlight that, but you also wanted to enhance and nourish what you had started within your program, and we'll get into that. Madelyn, I got to give you guys a quick recap of Madelyn. I've known Madelyn since she was in 3rd grade. So if you're talking about mentorship, if you're talking about building relationships, our relationship has blossomed, and I've seen her go through so many different life changes. I've seen her grow and develop into such an amazing woman, and I'm incredibly happy to have you here with us. So please give us a little insights to who you are and your magic wand moment.
Thank you, Donry. So, as you said, hi, my name is Madelyn Hinkelman, and I'm a junior from Summit High School. And my magic wand question was, I wanted to change in our community the fact that so many children and teenagers don't really have a place to go after school, and even like on the weekends. And I just wanted to create a safe environment in our community and in our state where they can go and get help when they need it 24/7.
Yeah, and that's really where we've been diving in, us three, is talking about where you guys have found a safe space within your after-school programs, and leaning into the mentorships that you get developed through that, leaning into having that safe space to go. And these two have really been a pillar for hope for a lot of people, and really bringing awareness to the importance of after school and what it can bring as far as the mental health space, giving kids an opportunity to come together in that sort of way. So I'm going to start with Lily. So what comes to mind when you hear the term mental health, you personally?
Yeah, so honestly, mental health, this might seem silly. I mean, I think of health for the mind, like health for, you psychologically, emotionally, socially. Like, how are you helping yourself mentally? Like, where are you at? Where are you at in your walk of life? Where are you at in your mind space? What are you thinking of on a day-to-day basis? How are you communicating with others? Mental health, like, how are you feeling is what, honestly, it just initially comes to my mind when I hear that.
What about you, Madelyn?
So I was kind of thinking of the same thing. My original answer was health mentally, health psychologically, because just like physical health, you can see physical health. You can see the scars, you can see the abuse, but you cannot see mentally. You cannot see inside someone's brain and how they see the world and how they see their perspective of it. And mental health is like physical health, but it's suffering mentally. It's that pain that you feel in your brain, and it's really hard to try to reach out of that and be vulnerable, because that's your way of thinking, and you're scared of what others are going to think of you because you're suffering in that way.
Leaning into that a little bit, is it safe to say that within your guys' peer groups, how open are you guys in discussing, because you just said, like, it's hard to know, right? It's hard to define that, it's hard to physically see it sometimes. So within your peer groups, what would you say is the biggest struggle for mental health?
Definitely, like, I think it's the vulnerability of it and being able to reach out to somebody for it, because, like, I don't talk to a lot of, like, my friends about how I feel. I talk to either you or my mom a lot about how I feel and stuff, and it's just hard to be vulnerable with other people and try to get that support elsewhere. But I also believe that that is the most important thing that you need when dealing with mental health like that.
Yeah, and I'd say, anxiety and depression are really at a big high right now, especially just within youth my age. There's so many things to worry about, so many things that honestly you might not have had before. The social media, the different aspects, all of these different pressures. Obviously there's college, there's what you're doing after high school if you're not going to college. There's just all of these different ideas that you're honestly training your mind to be worried about since you were little. Even adults, even like people that are authority figures in your life. It's like you're constantly worried about what's the next step. And I think that at my age now, I see that everywhere. You can see, where are you going? What are you doing next? And it's like chaos. It's chaos. Even for young people, like they don't know, and they're worried, and they're 5. It's like that's not something that you even think about until you are like, you're faced with that question of like, what are we actually dealing with? And I think even the vulnerability you talked about, it's like when I was younger, I could not openly express how I was feeling. It wasn't until I found the community around me and the community that I care about so much. That's my passion, is getting community involved in these issues. Because without that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, and I wouldn't be vulnerable. I wouldn't be able to express the issues that I have. And I don't know where I would be at if I didn't feel okay to express myself in those ways. And to think that there's so many youth out there that cannot express themselves, cannot tell people how they're feeling, even their parents, even their friends. I'm just happy to be at the point that I am, where genuinely I am openly. I'll say when I'm struggling. I'll say where I'm at in my mind. And that doesn't say that I'm not still struggling. I still deal with so many things I did with, like, while I was younger. But the community and the support that I had around me and I was able to find around me allowed me to be vulnerable and deal with those issues in a healthy way. But that really isn't the case for a lot of people today. That's not the case for a lot of youth today. It's just very closeted still, and I think that stigma is still widespread and still there today, and it's a big problem that we have right now, and that's a big issue that I think all youth are facing currently.
And going back with like what you said earlier, there's so much pressure on high school students and even little kids, like you said, to be in a successful career right now. And it's, where are you going? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with your life? And there's so much stuff that builds up inside of you, like anxiety and depression, because you don't know where you're going to go. You don't know what you want to do because you haven't found yourself yet. There's people who are 40 years old and still have no idea what they like and stuff. I mean, decision making and stuff is such a huge thing, and all that pressure that's on you is just, it's a lot.
Yeah. Really quick, I want to engage people. And when you're watching or wherever you're at, take this opportunity to ask questions to these amazing young ladies. As we continue, we can get to the questions here. But Lily, you mentioned sports, right? And a lot of the questions that come up is, what's more important? Is it mental health? Is it physical health? What are you guys' opinion on that? What do you think is more important?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that something comes up anytime someone even highlights physical health on its own. It's like, well, what about mental health? And it's like, here's mental health on its own. Well, what about physical health? But like, genuinely, they're so correlated. Like, you're lacking in one, then you're gonna end up lacking in the other. Just think of when you're sick. Like, where's your mind in that moment? Think of when you're struggling with anxiety or depression, like, where does your body go in that moment? I think that they really they piggyback off of each other, and they go very like hand in hand with each other. To say that some people do have that great mental strength to get through bodily injuries, physical struggles, but to say that one is, I guess, more important or greater than the other, I think is hard, because you'd like to say, like, mental health, you have mental health, like, it doesn't matter what your physical body is doing, but it's like, the reality of it is, like, you can't affect what's going on in your body sometimes. You can't change that without help. And I think that that's kind of where they just piggyback off of each other, like I said, like mental health, physical health, like they go with each other as it goes along, so.
Definitely, and like what I was kind of saying earlier when I thought of this question was that, like, physical health and stuff, you can see it. You can see when you lose weight. You can see if your body's physically tired and just exhausted of everything. When you get injured, you bleed, and you can do something about it. You can go to the hospitals and doctors and get the help you need. While mental health, it's all in your brain. It's mentally, and it's harder to be able to see that and realize that there is a problem here. And to say that one's more important than the other is really, they're both the same because they're both equally strong and valued. And really, it's a balancing game. It's a balancing game to make sure your physical health is good. It's a balancing game to make sure you have good mental health as well. And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. And balancing those things is it's a difficult challenge that a lot of people struggle with.
So, listening to you guys, what was in my mind is wondering, when were you able to identify your own mental health struggles and say, hey, this is something I'm going to need support in? When did that occur? Can you guys speak to, this was the time or this was the moment where I said, okay, it's bigger than my own fight here? What was that moment?
So for me, definitely, it's been a process so far. I was really struggling with a lot of it, and it really started clicking to me that I had anxiety and stuff the moment I started having panic attacks and anxiety attacks constantly. And that's when I realized that, like, okay, something is not right here. Something is wrong with me, and I need to get help and support on it. And the more it started happening, the more I started reaching out to, like, Dawn Marie and started talking with her. And anytime it started happening to me, whether it was at school, if it was at my job or at my house, Dawn Marie was always the first person I called, because she worked me and helped me through so much, and was like, Maddie, you need to breathe, like, calm down.
Yeah, nose out the mouth.
Yeah. What 3 things you see around you? Like, breathe, remember how to breathe.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's when I realized, like, hey, something is wrong. And honestly, it just started probably for me, realizing it was last fall. And for me, I'm still trying to work on that and trying to work on myself right now. Honestly, that was my New Year's resolution this year, was trying to work on my mental health and being like, what toxic things in my life do I need to push away, and what things are making me have anxiety attacks, what triggers me, and trying to get those negative things out of my life. And it's been a process, and it's been a journey so far, and I hope I'm on the right path. I guess I can never say it, but
You clearly are.
Yes.
Clearly are. I mean,
You're
you guys
talking
are-
about it.
yeah.
Like that's the first.
Yeah.
You're way further than a lot of people are, and that's the thing that we have to realize. It's like, even with me, like, I had social anxiety since probably 5th grade is when I recognized it. So what does that say about when I didn't? And that's a big thing, is recognizing it. Like, I think a lot of people, and especially youth, like, they might think that they're crazy. They don't know what's going on. Like, sometimes we just feel like that. And being able to even show youth that they're not abnormal. Like, this is a very normal topic, and it's mental health. It's not even saying that your mental health might not be struggling. It's just, it's health. It's health. How are you doing? You can be on a good level with mental health. You can be talking about mental health and working on your mental health, and be perfectly fine, feel perfectly fine. But it's a constant process. I didn't stop when I was in 5th grade, and I just fixed myself and I'm all better. Like, it's something that is a process. And even while I deal with anxiety and depression, different things now, and with different things that come in my life at different intervals, it's like recognizing it is when, like, I didn't see myself or recognize myself anymore. And I think that it's hard to even notice that you don't recognize yourself anymore. But once I noticed, I didn't like certain things anymore. I couldn't be around certain people anymore. I didn't feel comfortable around certain things. I just noticed I wasn't myself anymore. Wouldn't respond to situations the same. I had those triggers that it's like, why am I reacting this way? What am I dealing with right now? And I knew in my mind, because I'm like leader of my own mind, I'm like, I can fix it myself. Like, I'm a fixer. I'm Bob the Builder. I'm gonna fix myself. And that's just not the truth. You can't always do that for things. There's issues that you can repair. You can do things on your own to make yourself better, and that's the constant mental health process of making yourself better. But it's when you really realize those things that are just way more extensive than you ever thought before. It was the community around me, and honestly, even the way that they asked me questions, like, how are you doing? And I'm like, wow, like, how am I doing? I don't do I even know how I'm doing at this moment? And so it's like reaching out, actually finally getting out of my own stigma in my head and going and seeing a counselor and actually getting help with the issues. I think that it's always a process, and to think that even when I was younger, I just thought it was going to get better and I was just going to be fine. It's reoccurring. You're going to have ups and downs, and having the resources, having the people around you that can help you with these feelings and talk through these feelings with you, that's what's most important. You don't have to let everybody and everyone know, but having those key people in your life, like Dawn Marie for Maddie, and just saying, like, take a deep breath, like you were, like, it's okay. Like, sometimes we just need to be reminded, and that can help you, like, on your own.
You know, what's awesome about this is how well you guys are doing even right now.
Yes.
We got questions, and so look at that. So already there. So the first question is, who do you look to for examples or inspiration that success is possible at effectively dealing with the mental health challenges of life? Great. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, you know, who do you look to for those examples and inspiration? We all look up to Dawn Marie. She's.
But you guys have seen me go through it too.
Yes.
That's
right.
Those are the people like you look for. It's not the people that have it all put together. It's you look to the people that, you know, have issues and are overcoming them. I think that's the biggest inspiration, is you see somebody get through it and you're like, okay, like I can do that.
Yes.
Do a couple of people come to your mind, or any of you guys' mind that you see, maybe even if it's a celebrity or somebody, whoever it is, that you can say, you know what, that's inspiring to me. Those people, I know they're struggling with it, but they're thriving. Who are those people?
For me, it's definitely Dawn Marie.
I mean, we out here with Dawn. That's all I'm saying is Dawn.
Okay.
Besides
killing
Dawn Marie too, a lot of it comes from my mom too, because I can see her struggling and stuff, and I want to help her so bad. And she really is my inspiration to get better for myself and to realize, hey, you know, she's going through this, we can do it together. We will get through it together. If she's suffering, I can help her, and when I need to vent and scream at a wall, then I can scream with her, and we can do it together. And we're both there to lean on each other and be supportive for each other.
Yeah, it's that support, the supportive relationships. And I feel like, honestly, there's people in mind, but it's like I get most of my inspiration just from the community around me. Just simple people walking by, or things I see, like when I pass a television and it's like I see some random person or some teacher or some student just get through something, or even as I mentor youth at the Boys and Girls Club as a youth development professional, and so that's the biggest thing. Honestly, I find my little joys in watching the kids get through things or even try something new. I'm like, I am worrying about nothing right now. Like, look at them. Like, they are making it through their own struggles. I know their family situation, and they're here smiling, playing Candyland. I'm like, this is what it's about, and that's what matters.
Can you talk a little bit about what you brought into your after-school program? Because working inside schools, it's just, since the pandemic for sure, has brought up the need for more supports, the need for more education, all those things. And you took the initiative yourself to discuss with your after-school program the importance of providing that support. So can you dive a little bit into that, what that looked like?
Yeah, so part of a program, Youth of the Year with the Boys and Girls Club, I had to kind of think of a topic, something that I really cared about, kind of like that magic wand question of what do you want to change in the world? And my main point was mental health and the stigma around it. And so that's what I made my whole basis off of my freshman year, talking about mental health, getting that out in the world, and kind of getting rid of the stigma and that constant working on it. And I talked about how when I was younger, there was a counselor at the Boys and Girls Club. And while doing my process for Youth of the Year, I actually discovered she was a counselor. Like, when I was younger, I didn't even know. Like, I didn't know that that's what her role was in the Boys and Girls Club. I didn't know that that's what she was helping people with. I thought I was just talking to her for fun, and I was like, she actually had a background in it. She actually knew what she was talking about, and she was actually helping me through things when I didn't even know I was going to a resource. I didn't know she was a resource. I just knew she was there for me. And so as we started talking about that, my big point was to get counselors inside Boys and Girls Clubs. We didn't have one at the time. We didn't have any specialists for behaviors or mental health issues in our Boys and Girls Club. And so even recently, I don't know how long ago, we hired like a behavioral health specialist in our Boys and Girls Club, and that has helped tremendously. I think even just having like us day-to-day youth development professionals, I'm 17, so it's like I can help them with little things, but they really get the help that they need professionally and you know, like emotionally and psychologically, they don't know what they're going through, and so having somebody that knows and having somebody that they can go and chat with, go and even deal with family situations and really get connected in our Boys and Girls Club was tremendously important. And I think that that has just helped with kids that are struggling, kids that have hardships in their families, with their friends even, just little things with their friends at school. It's like they don't feel alone anymore. And that's the most important thing, I think, is making youth feel like they aren't the only one feeling a certain way. And when you don't have anyone to talk to and you don't feel like there's just this one person there that you can connect with and click with, whether that's the behavioral health specialist or just one of us, it's just important for them to have somebody to go to. And that's the key, is just, I think that that's just such a good stepping stone, is having youth having those resources and just a person to go to, even just to chat. And so it's just been a really good thing at the Boys and Girls Club having somebody there, especially when at the moment I didn't even realize we didn't anymore, and we finally got that. And I think that it's just made tremendous strides through different programming and different relationships.
Kudos to you on that. That's huge. Another question that kind of leads right into that question is, how should we prepare our youth in schools to deal not only with their own mental health issues, but also with other friends bringing their personal issues to you? I think that happens a lot too. Like, maybe you're not the one that's dealing with the mental health issues, but if you're a best friend or a good friend, somebody's going to confide in you, hey, I'm struggling with these things. So, you know, how should we prepare them, and how do they deal with that? If you're the receiver of the message of I'm struggling, how do we deal with it? How do we lead them?
So in my school, like, I definitely am probably one of those people who will get that a lot, because in my school we have like 120 kids. We don't have a counselor and stuff. We don't have a lot of people to go to. And for me, I try to reach out to those who I know are struggling, I know are hurting. And for me, like, just being their friends for them, I feel like I could make a huge difference in their life, because I'm not a counselor. I'm not someone professional, but being their friend and to help them get through it, that means the world to me. And it hurts me to know that I can't help them further, but I can try to get them the relationships and connections to counselors and stuff like that. And one of the things that I always kind of push hard on is just listening to them. Sometimes you don't need someone to tell you, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. You just need someone there to listen, just someone to sit there and vent to. You don't have to say anything. And
Yeah, I definitely think it's, you know, having the resources, whether that is just a person to go to in your school district or your after-school program, even if it's not somebody with that title of a mental health specialist or a mental health counselor, just even key leaders in those organizations, and even the connections. I mean, through small schools and through big organizations or small organizations, it's having a place like where you can connect them to a resource, and you can be able to connect your youth to a program on its own. I mean, even with mental health in general, you don't have to say that you're getting into a counselor like environment. You can just, even with my after school like program here at the Boys and Girls Club, those kids are there so that they have somewhere to go and they have somewhere to belong and to be. And that in itself is helping mental health, in my opinion.
For sure.
They have that place to go. They have that place to go if their parents can't take care of them at that moment. It's that safe spot. If it's not safe at home, it's just the resources. I think that whatever resource you can even provide, it doesn't have to be just a counselor. It doesn't have to be like this big organization. It can be a small group of people. It can be a small group of parents. It can be just a small group of people that want to make change and want to help people, and just give youth something to do. Give students something to do when they don't want to be in a sport and they don't want to be in a club. Just give some chat time, some community time, because I think that it's just being able to have someone to talk to is just a big step in itself. And once you get people talking, and you make people not feel like they're alone and they need to hide those feelings, I think that they come out on their own. And in a lot of cases, they can just start coming out to the people that they trust. But you have to start with giving youth people to trust. Like, you can't say that they need to talk to trusted people when they don't have trusted people. So I think that that's one of the most important things. And resources is just giving youth and just individuals, parents, adults, somebody that they can trust, even if it's just one person in their community.
Power of being heard.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, belonging, self-compassion, those things are incredibly important, especially for adolescents. That's where we're finding a huge need. And I think you guys both touched on, you're from a more rural space, right? Yeah. So resources are far, few, and in between. So thinking of what we can do inside schools and preparing educators on working with their students, working on self-compassion so they can turn around and be that safe space for them is incredibly important. And I do feel like although we've come a long ways, we're doing this, we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
There's still a long ways to go. So continuing this conversation, and you guys, I want you to for sure know that you don't have to play the counselor to everybody. Like set up your boundaries too.
Right, 100%.
As knowledgeable as you guys are, as experienced you guys are, as wonderful you are, you still got to take care of yourself first. Because how are you going to give in to your community? How are you going to give to the youth at the Boys and Girls Club if you're not taking care of yourself first?
Yeah.
So again, we've come a long ways,
Yes.
but we still got a long ways to go, and we can't depend on the Dawn Marie's, Lily's, Madelyn, Manny's of the world. Like us four, our shoulders are kind of heavy, but
Yeah, it's important to get our own deposits, right? Our
Right.
energies have to be protected as well. If your energy is overdrawn, you can't, pour into anybody else. We have another question, and we're getting close. You got this. This how you know you're rocking it.
Yeah.
You're killing them out here. This is what we're doing. Like we told you. But anyway, I don't know. You want to read that one, Dawn Marie? Or?
yeah, so it says, what is one piece of advice you would give to younger people struggling with any level of mental health?
Yeah, I'd say, sorry, Maddie. We're both like, we got this.
Yeah. Got it? Me first.
I would just say, like, you are not alone. That's like the biggest phrase that I always keep in my mind. And it's so cliche sometimes to people. It's like, obviously, like I'm sitting by somebody. But it's like there's always somebody that you can connect with. Whether you feel like it's hopeless in that area, just try. Just try and let somebody know what you're dealing with. Even if it's not saying I am struggling with anxiety, if you're just saying I'm not feeling good today, try to go to somebody trusted and try to go to somebody that you feel safe around. Because although there aren't always people in some people's lives that they can trust, there's always a chance, and there's always a chance you can take. And I would just really try to say, look for people that have already gone through these things.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't want to reach out, look at the people, like we were talking earlier, the people that are struggling but are still getting through it. Sometimes you might not want to talk to somebody about your issues, but if you watch and you look at how others are dealing with things and how far they've come, I think that it can make you feel at least a little bit better about what you're dealing with on your own.
Yes, definitely what you said. Like, you are not alone in what you're going through, and finding that person who you trust and just being vulnerable with them. If you are vulnerable with someone, and it might be scary, and it's going to be scary, but that's how brave you are.
Yes.
If you can find that vulnerability within yourself, that is just a huge step in itself, and you are being so brave to even taking that step, because others can't. There's a lot of people out there who can't take that step, and just taking that first step is so huge in trying to find that support within there, and just realizing itself that I have a mental health problem, and realizing that and trying to reach out is such a huge accomplishment just in itself.
It's a big one.
You know what? I could sit here and talk to you guys for hours.
I
Like
know.
it's so awesome.
I know.
Really, it was an honor to have these wonderful young women on this panel. We're gonna end here. I really thank all of you that tuned in. It was such a great time. Congratulations, you guys did awesome. We're gonna take about a 5-minute break after our closing so that you guys can stretch out at home or in the office, wherever you're at, get some drinks, do what you gotta do, and then come back in 5 minutes and we'll move on to the next segment. But again, I applaud you. I'm so proud of you guys.
So proud.
I just met them and we're besties now. And they did tell me right before we got on, I'm their new favorite.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Donna's not. So
You're right.
stay classy, South Dakota.